Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 2OG's Hooking and Stitching Island Style. I'm Antionette, your host. Today's video is a tutorial for the hashtag Topsy-Turvy Try Stitch Along, and it's going to be on block 5. This is your block 5. This is your crocheted seed stitch, knit seed stitch, double parallelograms, and then your Tunisian cross stitch. We're going to be going down to the table in just a second here. You're going to need your yarn, your crochet hook. If you have a Tunisian, use your Tunisian crochet hook, but you can use a regular crochet hook for these blocks, as the blocks are not that big. Now, as I have said, I am doing my blocks in different sizes because I'm making mine look almost like a patchwork quilt. Pardon me. I apologize for being behind on these blocks. Once we get to block 10, things are going to be shaken up. I'm going to shake things up a little bit. We're going to kind of change it up. Thus, the topsy-turvy tri-stitch along. If I can't shake it up and turn it upside down and topsy-turvy, then it wouldn't be the topsy-turvy tri-stitch along. We are still going to be doing all 3 techniques, but I'm just going to change it up a little bit. This is an ongoing stitch along. There is no end date, so you're never behind. I'm trying to get all the tutorials caught up. I do have up to block 7 completely done. Block 8 and 9, I do have the stitches planned out, but I do believe in block 8 I'm going to be changing it up a little bit because, let's face it, I was having difficulty with one of the stitches. So if I'm having difficulty, I don't want to be doing a tutorial where I am totally confusing you as I've confused myself. So let's get ready to go down to the table and let's get this tutorial started. All right? Okay, let's go. And I will just change cameras. Okay, we are down here at the table, and as you can see, I have block 5 here. And let me zoom this out a little bit. I'm just going to have to move the camera back just a hair here, so it'll be a little bit easier for you to see my hands. And we're going to be starting with this section here, the crochet seed stitch. So I'm just going to move this aside for now over here. I went ahead and I crocheted my chain stitches. Now the seed stitch is done in an even amount of stitches, multiple of 2. I did 20 stitches here because the knit section of this is multiples of 10. So I'll be able to give you a decent look at what the stitch pattern will be. So I chain 20. So chain however many you're going to chain, as long as it is a multiple of 2. And we will begin to do our crochet seed stitch. Now I will tell you that as in the past videos, I am going to put the text in the video, so you'll be able to write down, pause the video, and go along with the pattern. So the first row what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook, then chain 1, skip the next chain, and then single crochet in the next chain. So we're going to skip this chain here and go to the next chain and single crochet, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull through both loops, chain 1, skip the next chain, single crochet in the next chain, chain 1, skip the next chain, single crochet in the next chain. That is going to be your pattern all the way to the end. So I'm going to chain 1, skip the next chain, single crochet in the next chain, chain 1, skip the next chain, single crochet in the next chain. Continue that till you get to the end, and I will meet you back here when I get the last few stitches. Okay, I'm down here to where I have 2 chains left. So I just finished my single crochet. I'm going to chain 1. Okay, and I'm going to skip the single crochet and single crochet in my last chain. We should have 19 stitches. So let's check out our stitch count. Okay, so there is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 19. Now I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to mark this as my right side, because later on when we get to the knitting we're going to need to know our right side. Okay, so that's row 1. Now row 2, we're going to chain 1. Oops. Okay, well, cooperate with me here. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. Okay, now we're going to single crochet in the first single crochet and into the first chain 1 space. So make sure you get under both your legs. Single crochet in your first single crochet, and then right here into your first chain 1 space. And then we're going to resume our pattern. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to be crocheting into the chain 1 spaces. So skip the single crochet and go into the chain 1 space and do a single crochet, chain 1, skip the single crochet, go into the chain 1 space right there. Chain 1, skip your single crochet, go into your chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1. I'm just going to pull this up for a second. I'm going to move my stitch marker here because it's kind of interfering with my stitches. I'm just going to move it over to here. This makes it a little bit difficult sometimes to see which is my chain 1, which is my chain 1 space, which is my, okay. There's my chain 1 space. So I'm going to go in there, do my single crochet, because that's your pattern. Chain 1, skip the single crochet, and you're chaining into, single crocheting into the chain 1 space. There's my chain 1, single crochet into the chain 1 space. And you do that till you get down to the last 2 stitches. And I will meet you down the end of the row. Okay, I'm down to where I have a single crochet, a chain 1 space, and a single crochet. So I've chained 1, skip my single crochet. I'm going to single crochet into that chain 1 space, and then I'm going to single crochet in the last single crochet. And that completes row 2. Then you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. Now for row 3, we're going to single crochet in the first single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space. And you're going to do this all the way across until you get to the last 2 single crochets. Chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into the chain 1 space. You're going into the chain 1 space. Chain 1, single crochet into the chain 1 space, chain 1 into the chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, almost to the end here, into the single crochet, chain 1 space, chain 1, into the chain 1 space, chain 1. Now we have 2 single crochets left, and we're going to single crochet. We're going to skip that one and single crochet into the last single crochet. Okay, now for the pattern you're going to repeat rows 2 and 3. I'm going to do one more repeat of row 2 and 3, and then I will meet you back at the end before we go to our next stitch. So we're going to chain 1, turn our work. Now row 2, which is a wrong side row, you single crochet in the first single crochet and also in the first chain 1 space. There's no chain 1 between these two. Then you chain 1. Okay, we're down to the last few stitches, and on row 2 you do the chain 1, single crochet in the chain 1 space all the way until you get down to the last single crochet, 2 crochets. You got single crochet, I chained 1, skip single crochet, you single crochet in your chain 1 space, and then you single crochet in that last single crochet, you're going to chain 1 and turn. Now row 3 was you single crochet in the first single crochet. I got a hair in there. Down there. And then you chain 1. You single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 1. Single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and you continue this all the way until you get down to the last 2 single crochets, and you will single crochet in the last single crochet. I'll meet you down to the last 2, and then I'll show you the ending stitch. Okay, I'm down to my last 2 single crochets. I've chained 1 after I did my single crochet in the chain 1 space. So I'm going to skip this single crochet, and I'm going to single crochet in the last single crochet. So you just keep repeating rows 2 and 3 until you get to the size that you want for your section on your block. And then I will meet you back here so we can move on to the knit section, which is the seed stitch double parallelograms. Okay, this is the bigger I'm going to make my section. This is your right side, so that's what your seed stitch looks like. If you look at your wrong side, they look pretty much the same. Okay, you can put away your crochet book and grab your knitting needles. Okay, the stitch we're going to be doing, I'll show you here in the book. Let me get this here so you can see it. It's called the Seed Stitch Double Parallelograms. And that's what it looks like. Okay. So let me put the camera back down to the table. And this is a 10-row repeat. And I found when I did my block, as you can see right there, I just need to check my notes here, but I'm pretty sure I did the 10 rows. And then on my row 11, I did a purl row, and then I cast off on row 12. And then I did, so I could pick up my stitches for my Tunisian section. So I did a total of 12 rows. So put that off to the side there. Now this stitch pattern is a multiple of 10. So I have 20 on here. So I need to pick up 20 stitches. I need to have 20 loops on my needles. Now, of course, right now I'm on the right side. But once I pick up my loops, my stitches, I'm going to be on the wrong side. So we are going to do a transition knit row, which will bring us back to the right side. So, and if you remember, let me get my yarn over here. When we pick up our stitches, we just go along here and we pick up the V's. Now we have our first loop, our first stitch is already picked up from that loop there. So we go to our next V. You just put your needle under there, and try not to make these too tight. Under there, and then just wrap your yarn. Now I kind of hold my yarn back here like this, and then you just kind of pull your loop under your stitch like that, and then just kind of wiggle it. I kind of pull up on it so it's a little bit loose. You don't want it too tight. Then I just go to my next V, and I put my needle through. I just kind of pull the stitch over, just like that. Make it loose, and you continue that all the way down till you have your multiple of 10 on your needle. All right, you continue doing that, and I will meet you when I have all my stitches picked up. Okay, I have my 20 stitches picked up. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20. Okay, my multiple of 10. So now when I turn my work, I'm back on the right side. Okay, so for the first, let me get my yarn out of the way here. The first row, which is your right side, you're going to knit 5. If you remember, knit stitch front to back, yarn over the hook, bring your needle, and pull your stitch off. Do that 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then we're going to purl 1, knit 1 twice. So to purl, we bring our yarn from the back to the front. Our needle is from the back to the front, counterclockwise around our needle, and then pull your loop off. It's purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, and knit 1. So that was our 2 purl 1, knit 1s. Then we're going to purl 1, yarn to the back. Now our repeat is knit 5, purl 1, knit 1 twice, purl 1. We repeat that to the end. So we're going to knit 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yarn to the front. We're going to purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, knit 1, yarn to the front, then purl 1. And if you have more stitches, you continue repeating that till you get to the end. And you're going to turn your work. And we're going to do row 2. So you pause your video here until you get to the end. And then we'll go on to row 2. Now row 2, which is on your wrong side, we're going to purl 1, yarn to the front, and needle from back to front. You're going to purl 1. Now we're going to knit 1, purl 1 twice. So the yarn goes to the back of the needle. We're going to knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1. I'm going to do that set one more time. So yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, and then it says we knit 1, yarn to the front, and we purl 5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, that set right there, 3, 6, 9. You got 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. That is your repeat are these 10 stitches, not your purl 1, but your repeat is these 10 stitches. You would do that until you got to the last 9 stitches. Okay, so I should have 9 stitches on here. 3, 6, 9. When I get to those last 9 stitches, I'm going to knit 1, purl 1 twice. So, knit 1, purl 1, second time, knit 1, purl 1, yarn to the back, we're going to knit 1, and then our last 4 stitches are going to be 4 purl stitches. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that completes row 2. And we're going to turn our work. Okay, we've completed row 2. Now row 3, we begin by our first 3 stitches, by knitting the first 3 stitches. Let me just get my yarn here on this other side. So we knit. Well, I just can't get this yarn to cooperate with me in this here. I'm trying to work behind the camera, keep my yarn and everything. Okay, so we knit our first 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to purl 1, knit 1 twice. Yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, knit 1. And then we're going to purl 1, so the yarn comes back to the front. And then we're going to knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, with the exception of the first 3 knit stitches, those 10 stitches are your repeat that you will do all the way up until you get to the last 7 stitches. Once you get to the last 7 stitches, this is the last part that you do, to the last 7 stitches, which is what I have on here. The last 7 stitches, we're going to purl 1, knit 1 twice. So we purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, and then we purl 1, and then we knit 2. And that completes our row 3. You turn your work. Now, row 4, we begin with a purl 3. These first 3 stitches are not part of your 10 stitch repeat. That begins with the next stitch. So we're going to knit 1, purl 1 twice. Knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and then we're going to knit 1 and purl 5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, like I said, these 10 stitches here, 3, 6, 9, 10, those are going to be your pattern repeat, and they will be on the screen. So you can pause the video here and do these 10 stitch repeat until you get down to your last 7 stitches. And this next group of stitching will be your final 7 stitches. Okay, so we're down to our last 7 stitches for row 4. So we're going to knit 1, purl 1 twice. So make sure your yarn's at the back. Knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1. Make sure your yarn goes back to the back. Knit 1, yarn back to the front, purl 1. Here's your 2 times. Then you're going to knit 1 and then purl your last 2 stitches. Bring your yarn back to the front and purl your last 2 stitches. And that will complete row 4. You can see a little bit of your pattern starting to emerge. Now if you look at it, you can see a pattern forming within the pattern itself. So let's go on to row 5. Row 5 begins with a knit 1, which is not going to be part of your pattern repeat. So you knit your first stitch. Now begins the repeat. We're going to purl 1, knit 1 twice. Purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn back to the front, purl 1, yarn back to the back, knit 1. There's our 2 times. And then we're going to purl 1 and knit 5. Purl 1, and make sure you're putting your yarn back to the front or back to the back, wherever you need to go to. We did our purl 1. Make sure your yarn goes back to the back so you can do your knit 5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, that is your 10 stitch repeat. You can pause the video here until you finish get to the last 9 stitches on your needles. And if you look here, I have 3, 6, 9 stitches. Okay, the last 9 stitches, this is our pattern. We're going to purl 1, knit 1 twice. So yarn to the front, purl 1, knit 1, yarn back to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1. We did our 2, come back to the front, you're going to purl 1, yarn to the back, and knit your last 4 stitches. 3 and 4. And that completes row 5. We're halfway done with this repeat. Like I said, when I did my block, the 10 rows pretty much filled my space that I did. And you can see the parallelograms here, here, and here. And I just did the 2 additional rows for the transition row and a cast off. So it made it, for the size of my block. But if you want to do 3 repeats, just remember that it's a multiple of 10, and the whole pattern takes 10 rows. So let's turn our work and go on to row 6. Row 6 begins with your pattern repeat. So we are going to purl 1, knit 1 twice. Purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, and then we're going to purl 5. So yarn back to the front and purl 5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we are going to knit 1. And that's your 10 stitches. 3, 6, 9, 10. That is your whole repeat. So I'll repeat that again to the end. And you would repeat those 10 stitches to the end of your row. So again, I'm going to purl 1, knit 1 twice. So there's purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, and I'm going to purl 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and my last stitch is knit, and that finishes your row 6. I'm going to turn your work. Okay. So if you look at your work, you can kind of see your parallelogram starting to form. You see your seed stitch. Now row 7 begins with a knit 1, purl 1, which is not part of your pattern. So let's knit 1. Let's knit 1. And then purl 1. And now we're going to do, I do apologize if there's a phone ringing in the background. I do apologize for the interruption. So your first stitch for row 7 was a knit 1, purl 1, which is not part of the repeat. The repeat will now begin with a knit 5, and then you will do a purl 1, knit 1 twice. So make sure you put your yarn to the back, and you're going to knit 5. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to purl 1, knit 1 twice. So we're going to bring our yarn back to the front, And we're going to purl 1, yarn back to the back, knit 1, back to the front, purl 1, knit 1. There's our 2 purl 1, knit 1s. And then we're going to purl 1. That is our 10 stitch repeat. And you will do that until you get to your last 8 stitches. So I should have 8 stitches left on mine since I only did 20 stitches. So let's see, 3, 6, 7, 8. So pause the video here until you get to your last 8 stitches. Alright, and the pattern for the last 8 stitches is a knit 5, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. So yarn to the back. We are going to knit 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 3 stitches left, which is a purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. So yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn to the front, and purl 1. And that completes row 7. Turn your work, and we're on to row 8. Now row 8 will begin with a purl 1, knit 1, which again is not part of the repeat. So let's purl 1, knit 1, make sure your yarn's in the front, purl 1, knit 1. Now we'll begin our 10 stitch repeat. We will purl 5, knit 1, purl 1 twice. So bring your yarn to the front and purl 5. 1, 2. Just going to push my stitches up here. If you push your stitches up, it makes it easier to work. And there's 3, 4, 5. And then we will do our knit 1, purl 1 twice. Yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn back to the front, purl 1. One more time, yarn to the back, knit 1, purl 1, and then we're going to knit 1, so make sure your yarn goes to the back, knit 1. That is your 10 stitch repeat. And you'll do that till you get to your last 8 stitches, which I have 8 stitches, 3, 6, 7, 8. Now, you can pause the video here until you get to your last 8 stitches. And once we get to these 8 stitches, we are going to count our stitches. Okay, our last 8 stitches are a purl 5, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1. So, let's bring our yarn to the front and do our purl 5. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we do our knit 1, yarn to the back, purl 1, yarn to the front, and our last stitch is a knit 1. So make sure you take your yarn to the back. And that will complete row 8. Now the reason we're going to count our stitches is sometimes if you forget to take your yarn to the back, you're going to have an extra stitch. So I should have 20 stitches. So I'm just going to turn my work and I'm going to count my stitches. So there's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20. And what I mean by forgetting to take your yarn to the front of the back, I'm gonna make the mistake on this next row so you can see what I'm talking about. Row 9 begins with the knit 1, purl 1 twice, and this is part of your repeat. So knit 1, purl 1 twice. So we're going to knit 1, and then we're going to purl 1. So yarn to the front. Now you're going to forget to take your yarn to the back on this. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to knit one. Okay. I should only have 3 stitches, but I have 4 here. Do you see this? Looks like a yarn over. That's because I forgot to take my stitch to the back, but that's an easy fix. There's a couple ways to fix it. One way, which is an easy way, all you do is take your stitch, just take your stitch and transfer it to your left needle, like that, okay? You see that? And just pull your needle out from it. And that puts the yarn where it belongs, and then transfer your needle purlwise back to your right needle. And now you're where you should be. You have your 3 stitches. And then it was a purl, so you bring your yarn. It was a knit one, purl one. So knit one, purl one, knit one, and a purl. So you did your 2 knit one, purl ones, and then make sure your yarn goes back to the back. Now we're going to knit 5 and purl 1. So knit 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we purl 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, and that is your 10 stitch repeat. Okay, put your yarn back to the back. 3, 6, 9, 10. 10 stitches left. Let's do our repeat again. So we're going to knit 1, purl 1 twice. Knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, purl 1. That's my 2 knit 1, purl 1s. Yarn to the back. We're going to knit 5 and then purl 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And our last stitch, yarn to the front, is a purl. Turn your work. Now if you look at your work, you can see your parallelograms. We're on the wrong side, but if you look at this, you can see your parallelograms forming with your seed stitch. Okay, row 10, which is the last row of this repeat, begins with a purl 5. So make sure your yarn's to the front. And we're going to purl 5 and then do a knit 1, purl 1 twice. Purl 5. Oops, lose my needle. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now put your yarn to the back and knit 1, purl 1 twice. Knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn to the front. That completes your knit 1, purl 1 twice. Then you're going to yarn to the back and knit 1. That is your 10 stitch repeat. And I'm going to repeat that one more time, which will complete my row. If you have more stitches, continue doing that 10 stitch repeat till you get to the end. So bring my yarn back to the front. I'm going to purl 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it's knit 1, purl 1 twice. Knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and my last stitch is a knit 1. Make sure I take my yarn to the back, and that completes row 10 and the 10 row repeat for this particular stitch. Now you can continue going, like I said, with this pattern. It's 10 rows. If you want to do an additional 1 repeat, 2 repeats, it's up to you, the size you're making your block. This is where I will finish mine out. Now the next row we're going to do, row 11, is going to be the transition row, and then row 12 will be our cast off row, and row 11 is all purl. So let's do our purl row. We're gonna purl the entire row, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, I did my purl row. Now we're going to cast off. Now remember how to cast off. I'm just going to do the regular traditional cast off. So, and the reason we're doing it this way is because when we got to do our next section, the Tunisian, you've got to be on the right side because we do not turn our Tunisian. So we're going to knit 1, then we're going to knit 2, then we're going to pass the first stitch over top of the second stitch. Do not do these stitches too tight because you've got to get in there to pick up your stitches for the Tunisian. Then come in, knit another stitch, pass that stitch over, and you do this all the way until you have 1 stitch left on your needle, and do not cast that stitch off. Just like this. And then we will switch to our Tunisian hook or regular crochet hook, whatever you're using. Continue this casting off, and I will meet you down at the other end. Okay, I've cast off my stitches and I have 1 stitch left, so just pull it up, and you're going to take out your knitting needle and grab your Tunisian or your regular crochet hook, and you're going to insert that into that loop and put it down, and you're going to turn your work, and you should be on the right side. Okay, now I'm going to pause the video here for a minute so I can switch out books. Okay, the final section of the Tunisian is called the Tunisian cross stitch. This is an even number of stitches. So, and this is only a 4-row, it's a 2-row repeat, which is technically just 1 row with your return pass. Okay, now I suggest when you cast on when you chain your very first chain, you do it in a multiple of 10, which is an even number. As I'm doing these blocks, I have been trying to look through all 3 stitches that I'm doing and trying to make it so that your ends can stay even and you don't have to fudge too much. Now, I cast on 20. The knit was a multiple of 10. And of course, it makes it easy to pick up your stitches. You need to have an even number of stitches. So that I do. So we have our first stitch on here. So let's go and pick up our loops. Again, you should have 20 loops on. So here's my first one. So I'm going to go in. Again, you can try and go into your cast off stitch, or you can go down between here. It's up to you. So go in and pick up your 20 stitches, and I will meet you back here. Okay, I have my 20 stitches on. That's why when I'm telling you, when you're doing your cast off on your knitting, try not to make it too tight. So when you go to pick up, if you're going from knitting, transitioning from knitting to Tunisian, that you're, it's not too tight for you to get your hook into. So if you remember, we'll do our return pass. So it's just we start our foundation row with a Tunisian simple stitch. So it's yarn over, pull through 1 stitch, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and you do that all the way to the end. And that is your base, your foundation row. And in this particular, you will always have the same amount of loops when you do your forward pass. Yarn over, pull through 2, 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 one more, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay. Now, we're going to skip, you always skip this first stitch here. This one right here. You never use that one there. Now, we're going to skip the next stitch, this one right here. And we're going to Tunisian simple stitch in this one here. And Tunisian simple stitch was you go through the front bar, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Then we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the stitch we skipped, go under that front bar, yarn over, and pull through that one. And you can see where it crossed. We're going to repeat that all the way to the last stitch. So skip the next stitch, go to the next stitch, go through the front bar, yarn over, pull up a loop. Then you're going to go back to the stitch you skipped. Maybe you might want to hold on to that loop. Go through there and pull up your loop. Skip your next stitch, go to the next one, Tunisian simple stitch, pull up a loop, go back to the one you skipped, Tunisian simple stitch, and you do that all the way to the end. I'll do it one more with you and then you continue on. Skip the next stitch, go to the next one, Tunisian simple stitch, go back to the one you skipped, yarn over, pull through, and as you can see how the stitches are crossing. So continue that to the end, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, when you get down here and you cross your last stitch, you're going to have that one last end stitch there, your 2 chains. This is your what you call your chain stitch. So make sure when you roll it, you get your hook under both legs, and then just yarn over and pull through. Check your stitch count. You should still have the same amount of stitches you started with. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20. We're going to do the return pass. Yarn over, pull through 1. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, all the way back. Yarn over, pull through 2, 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 yarn over, pull through 2. And just you do that all the way back to have 1 loop remaining on your hook. And over, pull through 2. This is your return pass. When you're picking up your loops, that is your forward pass. When you come back, it's your return pass. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And there you go. So the repeat for this is the row we just did. So skip your first stitch. This one's always skipped. This one right here. Then we're going to skip our next stitch. Then we're going to go into the next one, Tunisian simple stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Then we're going to come back to the skip stitch, Tunisian simple stitch, pull up your loop, skip the next stitch, go to the next stitch, pull up your loop, then come back to the skip stitch, pull up your loop, skip the next stitch, go to the next one, pull up your loop, come back to your next stitch, pull up your loop, and you continue that all the way to the end. Skip, and we come back here, pick up our stitch, skip the next one. And this is why it's called the Tunisian cross stitch, because you're crossing your stitches. Skip, come here, and we come back to the one I skipped. Skip this one, I come to this one. Whoops, I'm out of camera there for a second, sorry.
to this one. This one. Back to this one. Oh, come on. I've used this yarn for so many tutorials, it's starting to get a little splitty on me. One more. Here. And this is the one I skipped. I love my Tunisian. And my last one, turn it to the side. Make sure you get both legs. It keeps your edge a little neater. Pull through. We're going to do our return pass. Same as always. Yarn over, pull through one. That gives you your chain for your edge. Yarn over, pull through two. Pull through two. Pull through two. And continue that all the way till you get to the end, and I will meet you when I finish my return pass. Okay, as you can see how this is forming. You would continue this pattern, cross stitch pattern, until you got to the size that you wanted, and then you would do your cast off. So I'm going to go ahead and this is my last row, and I'm going to do my cast off with you so we can finish up the tutorial, because this has gotten to be a long tutorial. So if you remember how we do our cast off, you're going to go underneath, yarn over, pull up, and just slip stitch it off. Go to your next one, pull through, slip stitch it off. Go to your next one, pull through, slip stitch it off, and you do that all the way down. Not pulling it too tight so you don't, your tension. And what this does is this closes up your stitch, and you can pretty much get a rhythm going on this, and cast it off. And the one thing about Tunisian I like is that it's a pretty consistent technique. And I got some new Tunisian books that I had showed in a video that's got a lot of nice Tunisian stitches, and a lot of it's color work, but even without the color work, you could do the stitches without the color work, just in solid colors, and it gets a lot of nice textured stitches. But again, just practicing. That's what this is all about, doing new skills, new techniques, new stitches, and just having fun with it. And yes, down the line, we may introduce one of our blocks with multiple colors. Okay, I'm to my last one, so I'm going to go and catch my two blocks, pull through, and that would be the finishing of your Tunisian block. So I hope this tutorial was helpful on block 5. Yes, I know I'm behind. See, if you stretch there, you can see your parallelograms. I think the lengthy part was the knit, because there was a 10-row repeat on this. I am going to get this uploaded, edited with all of the instructions on the video, and then get it uploaded. And then start working on block 6. But this here should keep you busy for a while. So thanks again for coming for this tutorial and for participating in the Topsy-Turvy Tri-Stitch Along, and buckle up, because it is going to get topsy-turvy in the very near future. Have a great day, and hugs, smiles, and happiness. Pass it on, make this world a better place. See you in the next video. Bye for now from Deer Island.